Is this the week that everything turns around? Have we just been way too impatient? Bitcoin is looking like it's setting up for the next major move. Could we get a sell-off this weekend? We have the altcoins looking like they've basically bottomed and maybe setting up for the epic reversal of the century. And we've got to talk about some of those coins. We got a special treat that's going to be coming on this show today. So everybody get involved, hit that retweet, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ding the bell. Make sure you're getting active in the live chat. I want to see what everybody's buying today. Are you sitting on your hands? What are you most excited about? What do you think is going to perform best into the end of this month? What coin or two coins? Let me see right now. Let me know your thoughts. Let's get into it. Let's go. Bitcoin, altcoins, ready to pump to the moon. What are we going to do about it? Let's go. What's up, everybody? How you doing? Good afternoon, good morning, good night, wherever you are tuned in. Let's go ahead and dive right on into it today. I'm just sharing this out to somebody that may be coming on here in a little bit. But we got to talk about what's going on in this market, because when we look at everything in this market, it's all bullish, right? No, it's going to break down, right? It's not going to do any of that. You got to pay attention to the data, because the market is going to move up and down depending on what time frame you're looking at. Now, when you look at this on the weekly, just a reminder, anybody that's been bearish has just not been zoomed out. This has just been in a bull trend all the way since, I won't say this date of this pump, but this first higher low we had a higher high here followed by a higher low. This was the start of the bull trend. And then of course, from there to where we're at right now, price action coming right back where basically testing regionally where that CME futures gap was that we highlighted earlier. Over the last couple weeks, but we basically, for all intrinsic purposes, could say that we filled that. There's still a tiny bit of a gap there, but the price action coming up like this and pulling back to this regional level, there's nothing unfounded about this. We've talked about this, but we're going to be getting back into the charts here in a little bit. We're going to be looking at Bitcoin. We're going to be looking at ETH. We're going to be looking at Solana, XRP, Cardano, Link, ONDO. We're going to be looking at it all. And I got another set of eyes that's going to be diving on in here with us here in a little bit. Somebody that you have not seen on this channel, and I'm very excited to have them on to get another look at the market. But this is great. This almost feels unfamiliar at this point. We're seeing green in the market. Remember, as excited as you may be right now, remember these green positions, depending on what your time horizon is, this could be a buy. This could be a take profit. It all is going to be relative to what your entry was, what your goals are in this market, and what your intention is looking forward. Now, for me, when I see this, this doesn't scream to me, oh, I need to be buying, because what we're seeing is a bunch of green. Now, when we're considering where this market can go, and we look at this, for instance, actually, let me go up to this chart here, total 3 minus USDT, sorry, this is just total, my bad, minus USDT, minus USDC, basically taking out the majority of the stable coins. This is an ultra bullish setup. When we come down to the others chart, which I outlined in a tweet the other day, right when the price was right here. Now, I'm not always going to be right. In fact, I'm wrong enough time. I'm wrong, but we've been nailing the calls on this channel. And the person that we're going to be having coming on here in a little bit, about 15 minutes or so, also has just been absolutely nailing the calls. And that doesn't, nailing the calls, I want you all to know, doesn't mean every single statement you make, that's the direction it's going. Because sometimes I will say it could go up, could go down. If you are not looking at the market in that regard, then you are not doing yourself the service of likely being profitable over time. Because if you are super bullish and you don't plot out the bearish course, you will be wrecked. If you're super bearish and you don't recognize that you could be wrong and it could be bullish, you will be wrecked. You always need to understand what is the probability of it doing X or Y, and what's my plan of action if it does one or the other. Because anybody that's been in this market for any period of time will tell you, this market can switch on an absolute dime. Everybody was just overwhelming expectation with this new crypto-friendly administration coming in. I think that overwhelming expectation actually led to the sell-off. Not so much that, okay, nothing happened immediately, so we're selling off. But because things weren't moving, the slight bit of momentum that came in there actually gave the perfect scenario for market makers, big money players, and whatnot to actually help nudge the market in those directions, dump their bags. In fact, I have a chart I'm going to show you here in a little bit, and I'm actually going to run sprint through some of these tweets, some of these charts, some of these data points, and the news context of the ecosystem, because I want to get it over to our guest here in just a moment. So what we're looking at right now, yes, this feels good. We are green on the daily. When you zoom out and realize we're very red on the weekly, it starts to make you recognize that maybe this type of green is okay, because you're starting to, I'm sorry, I don't have my chart up. This type of green is okay relative to this red, because this might be the start of the setup for that next major move to the upside. Again, everything is about the various time frames you're looking at in terms of your time horizon, but also the data you're looking at in terms relative to, is it green? Is it red? Is it up? Is it down? You need to understand the context here. Now, looking back over here, let me actually come right here. Looking at the crypto total market cap, we're hovering still right around that 3 trillion mark. I very fervently believe that whether it's this month, maybe it starts next week, following this weekend, maybe it's, who knows when it's going to happen. But I very, very, very much believe that by the end of this year, we will be, I think $5 trillion market cap is something relatively, I would argue, conservative. But the point being here, I do think up is going to be the dominant trend. The question is going to be, have the institutions got their fill yet? We need to remain nimble and adaptive in this market, because the institutions, the big money players, and governments are just now getting comfortable with the idea of even talking about crypto. And as our good friend Tim Warren over from Investing Bros says, when retail misses a boat, we miss the boat. When institutions miss the boat, they bring the motherfucking boat back. So welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Kelly Kellam. We got some charts to dive into today. Thank you to our channel partners here, CoinW, NordVPN, and Arculus. Again, remember, especially with the hacks we just had on Bybit, and we've seen a number of phishing scams, persistently over the days, over the last years. Head over to getarculus.com. Use code BitLab20 for 20% off your crypto cold storage to protect your crypto, protect your future. Now, let's dive into this. Again, I'm going to be running through this. First things up right here. We've been talking about this. Global money supply is ticking up. This is what we want to see. Why is this important? Well, first, I got some of these out of order, but we got World Liberty Finance also basically massively increasing their ETH holdings. And we're going to ask our guest about this in a bit, because ETH has felt like it is so far out of the narrative. It makes you wonder, is it going to have anything similar that we've seen in previous cycles? Or is the narrative and mind share and liquidity focus just too fractured amongst other assets? Are we going to see a $6,000 ETH? Are we going to see the $12,000 ETH like people were speculating before this bull run really started for this cycle? We're going to have to see. But the big money players that are affiliated and aligned with the power players in our government and what's going on within crypto are stacking into this. So maybe it hasn't left the narrative so much as we've thought. Now, we've also seen SUI this morning. Trump's World Liberty Finance partners with SUI to launch a strategic SUI reserve. So we might be pulling this one up as well. I think we will. We're not going to do a ton of TA on it. But as I was mentioning with the global liquidity, one of the things I want to pay attention to is not just the global liquidity. Let's look at the capital flow into and out of, very similar to money flow, but looking at the capital flow. And I've kind of, I don't want to say harped, but I've really tried to impress this upon you all. Money, the price goes where the money flows. If price is coming out, so too is the price going to typically drop and fall down. If liquidity is pouring in, then you have the fuel for that little asset to be the little engine that could trudge up the mountain. Seeing the price action tick up like this, what are we seeing? We're seeing the liquidity, the capital flow into the asset is coming up. But what do you notice along the way? It's not just all money in all the time. Much like we see price action build the stairway to heaven with rises and falls, we saw in this move in 2015 into 2017, 11 moves that were 15% or greater. I believe it's 8 moves that were between 25 and 45% to the downside on the way from $200 to $20,000. And what do we see with capital flow? Massive inflow of capital. Basically an evaporation of capital back to zero, actually slightly negative. large inflow of capital back to zero, large inflow of capital back to zero, and then once we really started getting this parabolic uptick, we see the regularity of the large inflow of capital reset back to zero, just a touch negative. Now we have an increase. You see how you're getting more capital flow in each time. This is also relative to seeing new retail players coming into the market, new money coming into the market, let alone with where we are at right now in this market cycle on a global scale, with the crypto-friendly administration, with corporations being aware, with the fair value accounting rule change in December, with the SAB 121 rule change being rescinded about 2-3 weeks ago, changing the landscape for banks to participate in crypto digital assets services. And we haven't even mentioned what capital flow is going to come from strategic Bitcoin reserves, sovereign wealth funds, which are already starting to see in Abu Dhabi. And I think we'll likely get some acknowledgments from Dubai and Saudi Arabia. And I mean, these dominoes, if you don't realize it, we're not waiting for the dominoes to fall any longer. These dominoes are already breaking that sort of gravity gap to start the fall and knock each other over. When this happens, it's going to happen so quick that the people that have been like, I'm going to trade every move with my entire portfolio, you're going to get absolutely wrecked. Now, trading, yeah, I trade, but I'm trading with a percentage of my portfolio because I am not going to allow myself to let the lion's share of my portfolio get left in the dust because I was greedy. That's where we're at right now. The train is leaving the station. You can still walk alongside it and get on, but it's going to be very quick before this train is moving so fast that you can't even not only run alongside it, it's going to be already beyond in the next town over, when a lot of the people globally are going to be like, oh, I missed the boat. We're not going to miss the boat. Not you and I here on BitLab Academy. Now, diving back in here, we got some things we're going to go through. We're going to get into this TA and some charts and some levels and some key signals with our guest that's coming on here in just a few minutes. Now, moving on here, we talked about the global liquidity ticking up. We, also, this is from Nick from Coin Bureau, breaking down. We see China, we see Germany. We're seeing the impact of what this global liquidity, aka liquidity in markets, aka positive signal for risk assets. This is ticking up. We're seeing the trade war right now and I did a post about it yesterday. Again, doesn't matter if you like Trump or not. It doesn't matter. Look at the tactic of what he's doing. But he's doing trade wars. Markets should be going up. Well, sometimes in order to run far, you got to sit down on the bench, have some water, reset your legs, and then you could just out sprint everybody out there. And I think large in part, that's essentially what's happening on a tact level from Donald Trump. The tariffs are actually putting pressures on the market. Remember, I did a whole video on it yesterday. $7 trillion in debt that's coming due here in the next 6 months. We're not going to be able to repay that. It's going to be refinanced. In order to refinance it, if we did it today, we would be, sorry for the language, we would be fucked because of the Fed interest rate. So there's going to need to be some things that happen. Trade wars, cool. Okay, tariffs, cool. Now, it doesn't feel good in this moment unless you understand what's going on. Then you see, let the markets fall right into my little money trap to take better positions here, knowing that the broader markets as well, we're going to see some fireworks here very soon. And furthermore, we also see this right here. Not only we were talking about the dominoes a second ago, we're talking about the markets being in a good position right now, but we also see $4.5 billion. Wedbush says 5% of all public companies will adopt Bitcoin treasuries within the next 12 months. 5%. Now, this isn't 5% of the assets they have on hand. 5% of the number of companies will be basically employing and integrating with deploying a corporate strategy on Bitcoin. So guys, you do not know what's coming. So let's hold on to our butts. And then this is furthermore what we were just talking about with China, quietly printing and priming $1.4 trillion stimulus. Guys, we should be excited here, not upset. Then we see Japan making moves as well. Japan moves to regulate crypto. New framework may slash tax from 50 55% tax. Can you imagine that? 55% tax on crypto, down to 20%, and allow ETFs. And Japan is a major global world market. So this is just another one of those things in line. We see El Salvador, we see Bhutan, we see Argentina kind of on the fringes of what they're going to be integrating with crypto. We see a number of nations in Africa actually mining Bitcoin. We're seeing Japan making moves on this, Malaysia, Singapore. I think the only people that are stupid enough not to take action on this are people in the EU. And anybody that lives in the EU, I mean, what kind of decisions are they making? I just do not understand it. But we did see Czech Republic, I think it was Czechoslovakia, I believe, also cut taxes on coins that were held over 3 years, I believe, corporate taxes, income tax. Now, with all this being said, we're starting to see some movement. Is this retail? Is this whales? We can look into that data later, but what we're seeing is 4,375 new wallets holding over 1 Bitcoin have been created in the last 2 weeks. Now, this might not seem like a large number, but remember, there's only 21 million Bitcoin total. There's not even enough Bitcoin for all of, we have to take it super advanced and we've got to break it down to basics just to remind everybody, because every one of you is a Bitcoin missionary. Every one of you, if you have the data points, the talking points, you can have meaningful conversations with the majority of people in all of our lives are very ignorant around the facts and what's going on with crypto. There's not enough Bitcoin that will ever exist for even right now. I don't even think half of every millionaire could have 1 Bitcoin. And what do we have? We got Michael Saylor with 500,000. We got the ETFs with, I mean, the number is astounding. I think it's over 1 million Bitcoin now. We're seeing the number of large whales from many, many years ago with 2,000, 5,000, 8,000. You got exchanges. The number of available Bitcoin that's out there is astonishingly low. And now, right now, Bitcoin might sound like 1 Bitcoin might sound like a lot to one person if you're just getting started. But when you look at what's going on, it is. Some people go, it's only 1 Bitcoin. 1 Bitcoin in 15 years time, people are gonna be like, that motherfucker has a Bitcoin? We need to realize how important this is, because the supply shock that is inbound is nothing short of spectacular. Now, I want to run through the rest here. Trump's crypto czar, David Sachs, says over the past decade, federal government sold 195,000 Bitcoin for $366 million. That would be worth over $17 billion today. All these things are lining up for the talking points and the decisions that are being made on a state level for all these strategic Bitcoin reserves, state level wide, as well as the national level. We've got the Whitehouse summit tomorrow. And I'm going to ask our guests here in a second what they think about that, because everybody thinks this is going to make the market go up, and it very well could. But I, in fact, hope that it is a sell the news event so we can have a gap up over the weekend and actually start pulling up back through that next week. That's what I would want to see, kind of get a final shakeout. But then we don't need to talk about this White House thing next week. Tomorrow. This is the other thing. This is the data I want to show you. Centralized exchange. Here we see Binance, Solana holdings since October 2024. Now look at this. This is that part of that sort of winter mute dumping on the market. And again, we don't need to talk about manipulation or this or that. Every single person and every single player in these markets is here to make money. If you are getting triggered emotionally because you're trading without strategy, it's your fault if you lose money. That's it. Own it. You fucked up if you lost money. You bought high, you sold low. Markets, exchanges, whether they're manipulating or not, the signs and signals are in the charts. The data that is present and on chain is nothing short of spectacular. And for those of you that don't look at it, maybe you don't have it. There's so many free services out there that you can look at it. Hell, you can watch BitLab Academy every day. We go over this data. We share it. Get it, follow a few key accounts on Twitter. There's so much data available, rather than going, oh, the price went up $100. Oh, it's crashing. When I'm on these streams and go, hey, Kelly, look at this coin. It's crashing. Bitcoin, for instance. It's crashing right now. I look at it and it's gone down $61. Bitcoin is $91,000. You're telling me $60 is a crash? You're out of your damn mind, okay? So when we're seeing centralized exchanges, look at that. They were reducing on the books, putting in orders, selling, blah, blah, blah. And then boom, market went low. What'd they do? Sold high, bought low, This is, because the price has gone down pretty spectacularly in the last month and a half. Now that they're increasing their holdings again at lower prices. So take a note from the big money players out there. We don't need to get into all that because I want to get into with our guests who's sitting there in the wings. It's absolutely. I'm going to ask them to make sure you're sharing your chart as well, so I can assign it a role. But we're going to get this individual on who I've been following for quite some time along crypto Twitter, and it is our one and only Black Widow. How you doing? Thank you for being here.
What up, buddy? Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you, and you got laser eyes right on me. It looks like you're burning a hole right into my heart.
Bro, I turned on the laser eyes like right before our pump to 100K. It was like 52. I'm like, this is it. This is it. The laser eyes are coming on for the first time in the cycle. And bam, a few weeks later, we were at 100K. It was like, either this is the do or die level. But now we're in a whole different era of this market cycle, right?
Yeah, we are. Let me actually turn my screen off. There we go. We got your screen up. Yeah, I mean, this is I've been in a few cycles. I know you've been in for quite some time too. You always share very non-biased, data-driven stuff. I know you've got your own private Patreon and group and all that kind of stuff, but you do share some little tidbits on Twitter regularly, and I've always appreciated it. I know I messaged you back in August. We got to get you on here. So what are you seeing in the market? Is everything according to plan? Is it overly frustrating? Like, let's just get your take. I'll let you have the floor for a bit.
Let's talk. First, I want to say, like, that was killer analysis. If people are just following a million people, they're going to get really, really wrecked. Kelly, you take the whole picture and just put it nice and concise that people can understand it. So, if any of my followers are on here, get with Kelly. This is a fantastic breakdown. Really great.
Well, I
So right
appreciate that.
No problem at all. It's the truth. Um, so we're at a very pivotal point. We are at a humongous inflection point in the entire market, and not just in the crypto market, in the stock market as well. I mean, we have a giant inflection point. There was one, which is basically a make or break point. There was one in 2024, and we did go up. That was an inflection point, and we made it. All right, now we have another one. And let's just head on to the weekly real quick. And we've been talking about these particular levels here. 98 is get above that, and we have active bullish momentum. In the middle, range. Below 93, corrective. So now what we have to do is actually reclaim that 93K level. And so we can see how important it is on the weekly time frame. We can see how important it is on the monthly time frame. And here we are, we can see how important it is on the daily time frame. And that 93K area is sitting right at that 92.5. So we had a war at 88K a few days ago, and now this is the big battle for Bitcoin. This is the big battle on the daily chart. It's a big battle on the weekly chart, and it's a big battle on the monthly chart. We can see these same exact levels. And when we're talking about different time frames, they will coincide at key points. So we have to have a really big kind of view on it. And I love what you said earlier. It's like your view does depend on the time frame, but the time frame, the smaller ones make up the big ones. So we do have to look at all of them. And right now we are at a very, very pivotal correct or reverse level in the market. And the level that you need to know about right now is 93. And we have a bunch of other parts of the inflection, right? Where's Bitcoin dominance? Right at range highs. This is very, very high for Bitcoin. The dominance is at 6150. If we can go ahead and see a top here, we will see our altcoins kind of turn back up. And so we were saying either the cycle tops here at 6150 and we do get our inflection point. And let me tell you, when dominance goes back down, it does not mean that the Bitcoin price has to go down. It does not mean that. When I'm going to share a little tidbit here on Bitcoin dominance, it's not just about altcoin rotation. It's where you are in the cycle. Where are whales looking right now? So if Bitcoin dominance is high, are whales selling? No. right? So once this thing starts to crash, we are going to see distribution on the higher time frames for Bitcoin. And then you get that altcoin wave. That's just a side piece. The alts are the side piece of this market. Bitcoin is the main event. So we are at an inflection point. We have Bitcoin at range lows, right beneath range lows. We have Bitcoin dominance at range highs, and we have a weak dollar. So we are at a very critical inflection point. The only thing that can mess this up for us is the stock market. So S&P, the Dow, and the Nasdaq. All right. The pulse of the stock market. I know everybody looks at S&P and Nasdaq first and foremost. However, you really do need to look at the Dow. The Dow is the pulse of the stock market for a reason. If you want a bull market, Dow got to be happy. You want a bear market, Dow got to be sad. It's just as simple as that. So if the Dow and the Nasdaq and the S&P stay happily sideways, I am fine leaning towards the inflection as bullish for this next inflection point, for the next move up, right? But it does really depend on everything that you said earlier, with all the stuff going on, and then now we just have to see follow through. We have all the points for the correct inflection. We just need follow through.
Well, on that note, what do you make of like looking at? Let me see if I can get this to where we can see all of it. Can we see all of it? I don't know why I can't see all of it. Dang it! Can I pull this over? Hold on. Let me see. No, give me 1 sec. Dang it! It doesn't let me. You can't see all the way over to the right for what? Here, I'll go like this. Here
I
we
want to
go.
see it.
There we go.
Yeah.
So I just had to zoom in. This, on a classical trading, I think you would agree with this. Being an analyst over, the last decade plus, as well as looking at on chain and looking at, feels like there's so much noise right now. One of the people I really respect in the space is Jesse Olson, because he doesn't give a hell. He doesn't pay attention to any news. He just looks at the charts. When I look at the charts, and I'm just looking at the charts, not considering any context, this is very potentially strongly bearish. The blue is the basically S&P 500, the SPX, and this looks very clearly like a double top. And we're getting a lower low right here, which kind of makes it but then we see the M2 money supply going up, and you start taking in all these other aspects with the trade wars. And so you're like, but maybe the context is manufacturing this, and this is just a massive trap before a launch. How do you make sense of this? Because we did see a massive, uptick here in S&P 500 with Bitcoin really just consolidating here, but ultimately getting pulled up. Now Bitcoin's holding up relatively well, but we're seeing S&P 500 pulled down. Do we follow this as the leading indicator that Bitcoin likely will have another move down, or are we looking to the delayed sort of time period that we see M2 money supply dropped, now Bitcoin dropped, but now M2 money supply is going up, so Bitcoin should go up? Or are we going to start to see the third case where we're going to see potentially Bitcoin break away from the narrative directly? I don't want to say directly, but very directionality correlated with S&P 500, where Bitcoin actually starts to take on its own path because of where we're at in the adoption cycle. How do we make sense of this?
That's an excellent question. So, for the first part of the base building part of the bull market, the S&P, the Dow, and the Nasdaq, they will lead, right? Because they're the building blocks. We can't have a bull market in anything if those are not happy. And so they've built nice bases for us, and now Bitcoin is starting to move on. And so now there's becomes the topic of the rotation, right? All right, so the stocks built their bases. They have been breaking out for a year plus. Now it's time for those kind of secondary markets, because Bitcoin is not part of the main market right now. It is like that secondary kind of all eyes on it. So it should have it should outperform at the end of cycles, and that's basically what we're getting at right now. So the Dow and the S&P, they are going to go first because they're creating the base, and then once we have a manic phase in the market, those betas, those everything else is they will outperform. That is why penny stocks outperform at the end of a market and not at the start of one during a base building period. So like if we're getting a manic market, I will expect to see Bitcoin start to outperform these, because these have already outperformed for the last year plus.
Mm. Yeah, I like hearing that. So, what do we make of? I know I alluded to it earlier. I'd love to see your take on Ethereum, because Ethereum, ETH, the BTC, has been in a downtrend since 2022, and everybody's just hoping for it. It's like, oh, no, this is the bottom. No, this is the bottom. No, this is, and and then Vitalik, we're having issues with the foundation. Some comments he's making. Sui, say, Solana. Is this just is the mind share and all these other projects now, or do you foresee ETH kind of making an epic comeback, and what's going on there?
All right, we have some ideas here. Yeah, vitamin's a little bit crazy, but we don't care about narratives and those anyways. We just look at the chart. So right now, Ethereum is a giant range. And that range is between 3,800, put 4,000 just for fun, and then that lower part of 23. That median point is 3K. And people are like, "What's happening with my altcoins?" They've actually been following Ethereum very closely. And so I want to show you something. This is not something that I'm going to share on CT most of the time, but I want you to look at the entire price action chart, and that we have been essentially sideways for the last few years. So check this out. Now, our invalidation for an accumulation is going to be a loss of 2,300, right? Like that's our lowest invalidation points. And yeah, it can drip below, but candle closures and reclaims and stuff like that, we're going to say 2,300. So, and when we have a structure like this, we have been going sideways. We had that clear bear market. And now we are in the same price action that we were at the top in 2021. But which one looks like distribution and which one looks like accumulation? That's the
Yeah.
question. We
Mm.
have we have both. We have all of this price action. And if we're getting a manic market in 2025, at the end of 2025, it makes sense that Ethereum is going to take a long time right at the end of the cycle. If this thing was taken off already, we couldn't last until a full cycle. We couldn't. So now we have the same price action that we did in 2021, except the opposite, right? Let me draw it out for you. Now, we have invalidations for this. I'm not saying this is 100% going to happen, but we are going to actually analyze what is going on here. And so we have this. Let me just get my little brush here. So top, we have very opposite. Let's forget this just for complication's sake. But we have the opposite build here. We have a topping structure and a move down. Now, in bull markets, we call a move up a parabolic move, and in bear markets, they're called capitulations, right? So we had that top, and then leading us into that capitulation of the bear market. Now we have an accumulation. We have price action at the lower levels we did not have in 2021. So now this is our do or die level. Like, this is the follow through if this is going to be accumulation or not. And timing wise in the Bitcoin cycle, I think it's perfect. We have Bitcoin dominance at range highs, Ethereum at range lows, and Bitcoin at range lows. So we are truly at an inflection point, but we have the data to at least give it a good shot of continuation. Make
Mm.
sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, I just want to clarify for everybody, where she's showing basically the topping structures on the previous cycle top, and the potential again, it's potential bottoming structure. That's why there's an invalidation. If this is accumulation, then we won't see a continued breakdown down to 1,800. You know what I mean? Because that changes it to, oh, this is distribution. Also, we have to see how the price action plays out. And this is just the nature of the game. Waiting and looking for the structures before they take a move, and knowing they could go up or go down. It gets so frustrating. You and I were talking about this earlier pre-stream. It gets so frustrating for people when analysts say it could go up, could go down. Well, here's a structure. Here's a structure set up. Let's see what direction it makes the move, and then you can take advantage of it rather than being taken advantage of because you need it to go this way.
Exactly. And you have to look at all the data points like you do, Kelly. And man, no, I'm not going to say anything about that. But just just looking at the ETH structure and the timing. I mean, hey, if this thing works out and this is an accumulation structure, which is the exact opposite of what we had in 2021, bada bing, bada boom. This is what everybody's been waiting for, but it's right on the line. It's right at the inflection point, which is right where Bitcoin is at its inflection point.
Well, I've got another sort of question for you here.
Mhm.
ETH has been, I don't want to say the determiner. It hasn't been the determiner, but it's been a large majority stake share in kind of signaling to alts, it's go time. You'll start to see some other, small popcorning of individual narratives. And then when ETH really starts to make the move, it gives confidence. Then there's some profit rotation. You see the rest of the altcoin market move. Is this market broad enough now with enough liquidity and big money players involved in things like Cardano, Solana is a major one in this discussion, BNB, to where if ETH doesn't make the move, we can still see the broader altcoin market not just be suppressed from that lack of conviction, or if ETH doesn't make the move, we're just going to, from here on forward, we're just going to start seeing fractured little sub niches having their cycles, and not just consolidated full altcoin market boom like we've seen in previous cycles.
You're not gonna like my answer.
I'm gonna
It's
love
it
it. It's an answer.
it is very dependent on Ethereum. I mean, the whole crypto market is built on Bitcoin and Ethereum. I mean, it's not just like a small thing. There's a reason why like the total market caps like include Ethereum, but it's like if this is an accumulation phase, then we will see all of those be affected in the crypto market. But it is really going to, I mean, without ETH, you're kind of living on a hope and a prayer at that time. It could happen, sure, you know, but this is a really humongous player in the game, no matter if people hate it or not. I mean, look at how it dances with dominance and how dominance has affected our our altcoins like mwah, to a T. This thing right here, this move from 23 to 4,000 earlier was this orange spot in Bitcoin dominance. That's where we saw that wave up in altcoins. So I will say that a lot of it does live or die by Ethereum and Bitcoin dominance. And it's not saying that they can't pump together or pump separate. I mean, we've seen Solana go from this to this, and we've seen ADA, and we've seen XRP and stuff like that. But Ethereum, that is coinciding with the fact that Ethereum is an accumulation. you
Yeah, no,
know
I definitely agree with that. I do think there's a huge amount of, I don't want to say liquidity parked, but it's liquidity and it's almost like the confidence determiner. So then again, we've been talking about it here at the office with, because we have Discover Crypto here, blockchain basement, all of us in BitLab, we all talk about these things on a daily basis. And as much as Ethereum is bled, it's kind of led me to believe that we've seen such a regularity, much like the fear and greed index. When fear goes down to 10, everybody's scared. I'm like, that's such a goddamn good buy signal. Similarly with ETH has been in such a shit house with people's perspective on it. I'm like, it's probably actually just going to melt people's faces in ways
I
that they don't know because they're counting it out.
Bruh, if this is an accumulation phase in the topping range of 2021, this thing is turbo bullish. We just need it to follow through, right? We can have the setup, and that's step number one. But if we don't have the follow through, then come on, that's the second most important step. It's number two, right? But if the altcoins, if Ethereum really is an accumulation, the altcoins are doing already what they are doing, and Ethereum gets to 8. Good lord.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. I'm getting distracted by this absolute overwhelming numbskull in the chat. His name is Colorado Dog King. I think he's got his head up his ass like a dog somewhere. But I appreciate your comments. It does add fun fodder for everything. He's just saying that it would be way better under Biden for the crypto industry. It just makes me go get an MRI and a CT because your head's lost somewhere. But let's go ahead and dive into. Let's look at a couple other things. I'd love to, if you're okay with it, looking at, and it can be any of these. these, whichever one kind of, yeah, you got Cardano up. Let's look at Cardano.
All right, everything's in ranges, and narratives are just, they are after the price action, right? Everybody is like doom and gloom sad, and then once the price action moves on, they come out with some sort of narrative to quote unquote explain it, right? So now a lot of the big movers have created a range from themselves. And so right now we're smack dab in that middle of that range. It's 85. So if Ethereum and Bitcoin do trend up, then this is the range to look at. Below 71, you're going to be in a strict corrective structure. And a range is just building sideways. That's totally fine. For more bullish continuation, you do need to close above 120. For Solana, similar range, but more intricate because we have a lot more price action in this topping area, right? And I'm not saying topping area for the cycle. I'm saying topping area for like, that's where we are, This one was a killer trade. I actually did get this at 18 bucks. And so I'm happy to just hold this, whatever happens. Like, I don't care. But this is a very accurate range here as well. That bottom is 130, and it did bottom tick. It did create a sort of a base down here. And so as long as it's above 130, it's high time frame bullish. Below 130, you're going to get a floor here, and that's going to become resistance. You're going to need some sort of crazy thing to break it if we do get below that. That is going to be your bottom, or you are officially corrective for Solana. Did you want to look at XRP?
Of course.
Of course. Of course.
I'm just typing out na 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 hey 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 goodbye. We had to ban somebody. I don't ever ban. This is, I think, the first person I've ever banned on the channel.
That's all I did. We literally do not care about people's opinions anymore. It's like we've been on Twitter so long. We're just like, who cares? But it's interesting that Ethereum is building this kind of a range, and it's bigger, right? It's Ethereum. It's, got that. Yeah. Anyways, it's bigger. Let's just keep it simple. But ADA and XRP, they're all creating ranges that kind of align with what we have with XRP, which is why I'm saying this is really still a big player. All these movers are kind of aligning in their own sense, making their own ranges according to this. So here we have ADA, here we have XRP. We have another one that you requested, and then Solana is also in that perfect range. What was your other request?
Well, I'm kind of focusing on some of the made in USA stuff, some of the people that are going to be at the Whitehouse tomorrow. ONDO is one of those that I think, it's one of my largest alt holdings just because all their integrations with what they're doing, Wall Street 2.0 and the bonds and stocks and, the treasuries, and they've been making a lot of solid moves lately. So curious your thoughts on that.
I have a cleaner chart on it. I just don't know where it is. So this one's creating a range. It's corrective bottoming with the market as well. So if see strength in Bitcoin and Ethereum, you're going to see it find a bottom as well. And so I'm just giving you areas right now of key levels. And so it can go, it can drip above and below these key levels. It's totally fine. All right, so we have a range. This is that median point right here at 135. I don't know why it's doing that. And then we have those range highs, and I'm not sticking it at the top of the range. I'm sticking it right here. Because there's different kind of candles, right? It's not like you're just looking at where they close and all these things. There's different kind of candles that create order blocks. There are different kind of candles that create limit orders, and then there's ones that react off a base or a topping. So this is a really clear range for ONDO as well. We do want to hang on to this kind of section where it is right now. And there are lower targets here. If you're looking at that, you're going to look back on the chart and see if there's other locations where this could possibly be tagging out, and boom, right here. So tag out, but close above the range and you're good to go. But we need Bitcoin and Ethereum to be happy. We can have the perfect altcoin setups, but Bitcoin and Ethereum can ruin it for us, which is annoying, but it's crypto. One more chart I wanted to look at is the USDT dominance. This is
Mm.
going to be the opposite of basically the trend in crypto if it's going up or down. So if this thing can reject at these key points, and we need this to be bearish in just simple terms, we need USDT to be bearish. So we're seeing a wick here, and this wick is nasty. And if we can close within it or below, that is showing some sort of exhaustion. So if we can get, see, this is what we're talking about by adding more data to the inflection point. Bitcoin dominance range highs, Bitcoin range lows, DXY crashing, and dollar or USDT also losing steam. That's another added additional to our inflection point here. So everything is lining up. We just need follow through.
Yeah, I mean, even more so. Moreover, Mustache El Crypto Prof. Uh, Very simple chart here. Just looking at this, the altcoins coming down right into a range. And you just pointed it out clearly as well, highlighting that ONDO chart. If anybody, you're always wondering when people are, if you're new and you're like, how do analysts figure out levels? Zoom out on the chart. Look at where there is previous bounces and previous rejections. You create a box, a zone, basically a roadmap of liquidity interest levels on the chart. And where did the price come down to? Came right down into this constricted in a falling wedge. We have the RSI also pulling down, but breaking out of this trend right when we're at basically bouncing on this base. And then, so we're getting the index of the feeling of the altcoin market. And then you come over there and you look at ONDO, just much like she did. I mean, see, look, we have the same levels marked out. Same levels marked out here. Got two nice demand wicks. Bears tried to make the move. And Bull said, what are you talking about? No, Bears tried again. Bull said, you are out your mind. And so I think we are a bit in a holding pattern here, and we're seeing it across the board. I cannot believe, Black Widow, I cannot believe that, in my opinion, maybe I'm biased because it's my largest alt bag, and I'll call that out. I cannot believe that Chainlink, I think Chainlink's probably one of the most undervalued on a price level coin for the amount of integrations that it has, and I'm talking exponential level of impact the partnerships and integrations they have that are scheduled, like DTCC and Swift. They just got, I think I have it over here. They have a 50 billion, where's it at? $50 billion, $50.4 billion contract, basically doing security support under the U.S. military. And it's not just Chainlink. Remember, everybody, one of those coins I think everybody's sleeping on, made in the USA. Nobody's talking about. It's not even on those lists of coins made in the USA. I don't know why. It's Constellation DAG. Constellation DAG. Talk about a great opportunity. And by the way, this is not a paid sponsorship or anything. This is a made in USA coin that it has contracts with the U.S. Air Force, with U.S. Transcom, with Department of Justice, with U.S. Treasury, and it's like $140 million market cap. I mean, it's like, so you got Chainlink, you got DAG, you got ONDO, all the, all these guys are going to be at the White House tomorrow. And so, I mean, I think we got a lot to look forward to with what's coming up. Sui also doing good.
So good. The structure, the overall high time frame, everything's structured so well. We just need follow through. This is the Doge chart, by the way. This is your king altcoin. If it's happy, then okay, alt season continues, right? This thing tops for the cycle, probably takes everything else with it. This is your king altcoin. This is the Bitcoin of memes, right? As Doge. Very clear uptrend, though. I mean, boom, 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 boom. Hold this level and even dip a little bit below it. It'd be totally fine. Higher highs and higher lows for the cycle for Doge. That's a very good sign. We do like to see that happen. I will show you one more thing. I'm trying to talk.
I just on that note, I want to point out because it's kind of lost narrative lately, but we still have the X payments platform coming, which I can't imagine X payments at minimum won't have Doge just because of Elon's sort of bizarre, not affinity, but he's tied himself to it in some fun, playful, different ways. So I think we'll have a pretty big impact on it too, whenever that's released.
It's just the structures on the key things are just
Yeah.
so dang good, So it's hard to just give it up even on a high time frame dip that we're having right now, and they are going to happen. They're going to happen. It's either you're leaning into the high time frame or you're not. It's really simple at this point. Do you think the cycle is going to continue or do you not? You take the risk and then don't complain, right? The risks on both of them, so I'm going to share one more chart, and that's Telcoin. And I know it's not going to be on like the summit or anything tomorrow, but this is another made in US coin that has been really clean. So if anyone's interested in just any new things, this is not a shell. I've been holding this thing for forever. So this is also a made in US, because we actually do need to put together a list of like made in US coins and just like
Real
spam.
ones, not just the ones that are dubbed by, the
Yeah,
massive charts, you know?
exactly. And I don't know how much time you want to spend on this, but we are on Operation Save the Weekly time frame.
Yeah.
I don't care. I wanted to say one more thing about the summit, then I do have to take off.
Yeah, we're going to be closing out here, so we can close out with this chart and then your thoughts on the summit.
So no if, ands, or buts about it. If we do end up staying closing under 93K, we are in a corrective phase until proven otherwise, right? As simple as that. If we keep closing below 93K, we use that as resistance, then we are in a corrective phase, until we can reverse it. But you're going to have to hold through that turbulence. So number one, we have to get above 93, right? And hold it. And so we are at such a pivotal point, such the inflection point. Everything is lining up as we were talking about. And so this crypto summit thing is kind of coming up at this weird time. It's
Yeah.
like the market is at the do or die level. And so this market summit is not going to be the reason it's bullish, and it's not going to be the reason it's bearish. It's already set up for something. Now we're going to see what it is.
Right. And on the bizarre case, I will acknowledge I'm so bullish on everything that I'm also aware that it's not out of my wheelhouse. It's not out of my realm of possibility, that there's so much expectation with everything right now that it doesn't mean, even though everything's so bullish for the long term, we could spend. I mean, look at what we saw last year. 7 months of sideways price action with slightly descending. Essentially, it looked like distribution, but it actually ended up being very strong accumulation before a 100% move from September 3rd or something, I believe, up to $109,000. And similarly, right now, we could, if it's not the exact same months, but we could travel sideways, chop $30,000, $20,000 moves between now all the way into August or September. That wouldn't be out of the question, especially on the comments I made earlier, especially now that institutions, corporations, big money players, ultra high net worth individuals, and sovereign bodies out there are like, oh, we need to look into this. Well, it's plenty of reason right now to chop as many people out as possible before the epic move of the century. So I think we'll likely move up before that, but I'm not ignoring the possibility of a pretty big washout, whether it be by time or by a move down to $70,000 or something like that.
Yeah, that's the worst case situation right now that could happen is 69.70. There is a reversal block there, and it should be very strong. We have created so much price action at that 68K level. If that does break, I would consider there's a big problem if 68 breaks. If we go down here and we end up actually having that blow off top in Q4, we have time for that. I will accept that we do have time to reject from 93, go down here, and then move on. We do, but that should be the worst case scenario. Otherwise, we have a problem. If 69 is not 69, 68, yeah, that's the theme here. If that's not a reversal point, then we have a problem. But we do have
Absolutely.
time.
I do want to take a moment also and just say, any of Black Widow's followers out there that are tuned in, I just want to say thank you all for showing up. Anybody that has not been following Black Widow, if maybe you're BitLab people and you haven't seen her before, make sure you go and follow her on X. She's got her own private community as well, where she's always dropping alpha. She does drop quite a bit of stuff. She joins spaces, all kinds of stuff. Make sure you follow her at Black Widow BTC. But I'm going to throw it back to you, Black Widow, to wrap us out. We have a major potential, tomorrow with this Whitehouse summit. What's your sort of idea on the impact of that? Is it a buy the rumor, sell the news? Who cares? Let's wait and see. Either way, it's going to be bullish in the midterm. Like, what's your thoughts on that? And then we can wrap it.
Okay, so we know that 93 is the pivot point. It is the do or die level of continuing a correction or reversing the correction. So the charts are set up for something, we just don't know what it is. If they're timing this for the reversal, that would be hilarious. But we also don't want to see good news on a lower high. We are right there. We are right there in both perfect situations, but we have other data that kind of suggests that, the cycle will continue, but it's like right at the key level and nobody knows which way it's going to tip. The chart's set up, you should already know what you're doing. For, like I've said a million times for the last 3 months, if we lose 93K, that's going to be your, am I holding this turbulence? Do I not care? Am I adding more? You should already know what your plan is right now at our pivotal moment. We've been talking about this: either reject from the underside and we continue correction, or we reclaim this in ONDO, business as usual. But you should already have your plan based on the chart, not based on the summit.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think overarchingly, if you don't know what to do, sit on your hands. If, if we do get a sell-off, this is not financial advice. I'm still of the opinion, anything that's happening right now because of the framework that's being established, I'm looking for buys. And if it goes lower, I'm lowering my average entry. If it goes lower, that's my plan. But every one of you has a different sort of life circumstance. And I would not advise in any regard trading, investing your rent. You need to be out there mining some fiat in whatever way you can so you can get it allocated without putting your ability to navigate life in a real way. Because if you're putting your money at risk because you need it, and you're going to need it soon, you're emotionally, and you're going to end up just giving your money to somebody else to help donate your capital to their third boat, their fourth vacation home, because there's bigger, smarter, more patient players out there, and they can buy now and have it drop another $30,000. They're either hold or buy again. So don't put yourself at risk. Great charts today, Black Widow. I'm so happy to have you on. Again, everybody.
I got one more little tidbit for you.
Oh, let's get it.
The Bitcoin cycle has never topped at the same time that Bitcoin dominance has. So we need a crash for this sucker. All right. This thing hasn't crashed on delay. Cycle continues. Right.
Hold on. I'm going to put you on this screen so I can cut that into a short. Say what you just said again.
Oh my God.
Say it again.
The cycle has never ended with Bitcoin dominance at range highs. We need a crash for this thing. Otherwise, the cycle isn't over. The thing is now, are we going to get a new high on Bitcoin dominance and correct? Still cycle continues? Or we start the end of our cycle into this year, into the parabolic stage. You get that new high, alt season, fun stuff comes later in the year. Or we start topping here, and Q2 and Q3 is going to be fun.
That's what I'm all about. And everybody, make sure you're following us here on BitLab, keeping you on the right side of the trend. It's also, remember, we try to be positive here. Empowerment. It's all about data. It's not about what's the price. It's like, how can we make sure that we can navigate our profits along with the price and not fall victim to it because we're emotional. And at Black Widow, again, thank you so much for coming on. I hope to have you back on more in the future. And everybody, make sure you're following her at Black Widow BTC on X. And you can find more information on her there. But with that being said, Black Widow, you got any closing thoughts before we roll?
No, I think we covered everything. And I'm usually on Patreon on this, giving all the details. I give tidbits on CT here on Twitter. But if you want like the full scoop, it's on the videos. There's only so much we can do on CT, like post one chart at a time. If you want the full details, get into a video. It's the easiest way to get the information. So you are a rock star, brother. Thank you so much for getting me on here. And we will talk soon. Let's see what this inflection point does for us. We're all really excited. We're all optimistic. We're all in here because we want to see what this thing can do. Right?
Absolutely.
And we're on board or we're not. That's it.
Hey, I am not on a fiduciary responsibility level. I'm not by any means. I'm allocated and over allocated, but I know how to navigate this market, and I don't put myself at risk in other areas, but I'm all in on this market. So I'm excited about it, and I love being able to talk with people like you that have different charts and slightly different lens, and maybe pull up certain things that maybe I haven't seen or think about it in a different way. That's what this is about, everybody. Nobody is right or wrong because of a chart or a call. We're all out here just sharing our opinions and saying, well, what do you see? Well, fuck, I'm not seeing that. Okay, yeah, we're figuring this shit out together, all right, everybody? But we love
Bro,
you.
we're on the same team. Nobody, it's not bulls versus bears. It's us versus the exchanges. Man, we're on the same team, bros. Let's do this.
Same team. That's all we got today, everybody. We're going to redirect you over to the blockchain basement now. I want every single one of you, when we redirect there, or if you go there on your own now, drop in there, say, BitLab is grateful for the blockchain basement. Go share some love over there. But Black Widow, big love to you, and we'll be chatting offline, and we'll get you back on here again soon. Adios.